Big Duval.
B93.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the District Council of Grand Port that it is planning to undertake the following renovation works at the Mayberg Market. Firstly, upgrading of the drain and the slabs, for which bid has been invited on the 24th of May 2023. And only one bid has been received as a closing date of the 5th of June 2023. The bid is at evaluation stage. Secondly, upgrading of the firefighting system, for which bid have been invited on the 11th of May 2023. And two offers have been received at closing date of the 29th of May 2023. The bid have been evaluated, but both of these bids have been found to be non-responsive as they are on the high side. The bid would be relaunched in 2 weeks' time.
May I ask the Honourable Vice Prime Minister, is it not high time that we need to revamp and renovate the Mayberg market as to meet the growing demand for Mayberg to be looked upon as a high-end tourist village and destination?
Mr. Speaker, sir, this has been discussed with me by the Member of Parliament at Mayberg, the Honourable Minister Bobby Ariram, the Minister Stéphane Toussaint, and Kavi Duleb. This has been discussed because I think I agree with him. We have to look at it because a new market is coming. A new market is coming in Mayberg, so we have to think what we are going to do with the present market. So we are thinking about that, what we are going to do with this particular one in the future.
Next question. B924.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part A of the question, I'm informed that recruitment of healthcare assistants is made by selection from candidates who possess a Cambridge School certificate or passes obtained on one certificate at the General Certificate of Education ordinary level, either in 5 subjects, including English language with at least grade C, in any 2 subjects, or in 6 subjects, including English language with at least grade C in 1 subject, or an equivalent qualification acceptable to the Public Service Commission. These selected candidates are appointed in a temporary capacity in the first instance and are required to undergo an in-service training course at the hospitals and the Mauritius Institute of Health for a period of at least 1 year. On successful completion of the training, they are appointed as healthcare assistants in a substantive capacity. Mr. Speaker, sir, as far as the modalities are concerned, the procedure for filling of vacancies in the grade is as follows: either by promotion within the ministry, or after advertisement of the vacancy limited to public officers, or after open advertisement to the general public, or by redeployment of qualified retrenched government employees, or by recruitment from outside the public service through the employment service of the Ministry of Labour, Human Resource Development and Training. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part B of the question, I'm informed that healthcare assistants are recruited based on the number of vacancies and thereafter posted to regional hospitals and other health institutions. Since 2019 to date, 160 healthcare assistants, 64 male and 104 female, have been recruited by my ministry. Out of these, 43 have been posted at G2 Hospital, 33 at SSRN Hospital, 22 at Dr. Bruno Chong Hospital, 32 at Nehru Hospital, and 38 at Victoria Hospital based on the requirements of the hospital.
Thank you. Can I ask the Honourable Minister as to whether the healthcare assistants have a scheme of duties as per his ministry and the labour law, so that the issues of burnout or overwork can be clarified following the death of one HCA, the regrettable death of 1 HCA 2 weeks ago?
Mr. Speaker, sir, all officers who are selected by Public Service Commission, they do have a well-defined duties. And it's not that healthcare officers have no defined duties. That has been done. Now, in regard to what he is stating about one healthcare officer of burnout, first, there is another question, B927, on the same subject. But firstly, how the honourable member is attributing burnout of the officer, because the death of the officer is being attributed to burnout. The ministry has no complaints on that, and I don't know how this is being attributed to the burnout. I don't think it is proper, especially when we know the family members of the officer who has passed away. In fact, we have to express our sympathy, and it is not proper here to give details of what's happening, what the officer was suffering from, and attributed this to burnout.
Next question.
B926.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that the import of pesticides is controlled by the Dangerous Chemicals Control Board under the aegis of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. A technical committee of the board reviews all requests for import of pesticides for agricultural use. Pesticides for use in agricultural sector include insecticides, excluding biopesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and acaricides used to control pests and diseases on crops. Based on views of the FARE and the MCIA, the technical committee makes recommendations to the Dangerous Chemicals Control Board in respect of imports. Regarding part A1 of the question, I am informed that some 300 tons of pesticides, namely insecticides and fungicides, are imported annually since 2018 for use in vegetable and fruit plantations. I wish to highlight that all pesticide formulations contain a mixture of active ingredients and other inert ingredients. Pesticides consist of about 30% of active ingredients on average, which are responsible for the control of pests and diseases. I am tabling data provided by the Customs Department of the Mauritius Revenue Authority on the types and quantity of pesticides imported from 2018 up to June 2023. I am further informed that highly toxic pesticides are already prohibited in Mauritius in line with the Dangerous Chemicals Control Act 2004, and no such pesticides are in use. I am therefore also tabling a list of prohibited agricultural chemicals as per the 18th schedule, section 27, part 2 of the Dangerous Chemicals Control Act. I wish to additionally inform the House that some 880 tons of herbicides are also imported annually, mainly for use in sugarcane plantations. Mr. Speaker, sir, with respect to part A2 of the question, I am informed that since the entry into force of the Use of Pesticides Act in September 2018, the Pesticides Regulatory Office has collected 3,177 samples, out of which 110 samples were found to contain pesticides that exceeded the maximum residue levels based on the Codex Alimentarius standards of the FAO and WHO. In addition, 515 samples were found to contain authorized pesticides used in food crop production, but which are not recommended on those specific crops. In line with the Use of Pesticides Act 2018, a total of 315 improvement notices have been issued to growers regarding samples that did not comply with the provisions of the Act, following which the latter are being advised by the officers of the Pesticides Regulatory Office, as well as the extension offices of FARE on the effective use of pesticides in terms of type, specificity, dosage, among others. With the enforcement of the Act, it has been observed that growers are using pesticides in a more efficient and safe manner, that is, applying pesticides only when required and using the proper dosage and respecting pre-harvest intervals. I also wish to inform the House that in order to reduce the use of agrochemicals, including pesticides, the FARE is promoting a number of schemes, namely the Good Agricultural Practice, second, the Sustainable Production through Smart Agriculture under the DESIRA project, production using organic standards and agroecology, development of integrated pest and disease management packages, and sensitization on judicious use of pesticides. I also wish to inform the House, Mr. Speaker, sir, of the MORI-GAP certification scheme under the Mauritius Standards Bureau, which undertakes yearly certification exercise against the standard MS 184-1 2019, specifications for good agricultural practices for crop production for agricultural operators, known as the MORI-GAP. For the period July 2022 to February 2023, I am informed that 58 agricultural operators have been successfully certified and 16 additional agricultural operators are expected to be certified by the end of this month. Coming to part B of the question. The Pesticides Regulatory Office of my ministry is operational since September 2018, and one of its main tasks is to ensure that pesticides are being used as per recommendations in view of protecting the public. I am informed that 5 officers, namely 1 principal scientific officer, who is responsible for the overall management of the office, and 4 agricultural support officers who carry out pesticide residue monitoring by collection of samples for analysis and sensitization of growers, are currently posted at the Pesticides Regulatory Office. Samples of fruits and vegetables are collected at farm gates, markets, auction markets, and supermarkets for analysis of pesticide residue. The Pesticides Regulatory Office is supported by 4 additional officers from the Agricultural Chemistry Division for pesticide residue analysis at the Food Technology Laboratory. For coordination, there is 1 acting senior scientific officer for coordination of activities in the laboratory and the development of standards, 1 scientific officer responsible for testing of residues, and 2 agricultural support officers to assist the scientific officer for testing.
Thank you. I was asking for the list of chemical trade names of the pesticides, but I cannot see the data. Can I have the data, please? And with regards to the Pesticides Regulatory Office, without a Pesticides Regulatory Office that is well staffed, the law, the Use of Pesticides Act, is useless and cannot be enforced. So can the Minister state to the House who is the officer in charge of this office, please?
No, I have mentioned, Mr. Speaker, sir, the name of the responsible officer is the Principal Scientific Officer by the rank. I do not propose to give the name of a civil servant. He has the rank of a Principal Scientific Officer. I understand that the concern of the honourable member that the office should be sufficiently staffed. We totally agree, but there was no Pesticide Regulatory Office prior to 2018. I have to thank my distinguished colleague, Honourable Siraton, who brought this legislation in Parliament when he was Minister of Agriculture, and we have since 2018 the existence of the Pesticides Regulatory Office. It is ongoing work. Of course, we have asked for additional funding. We will fill posts. Well, the honourable member knows the process of staffing in the civil service. It is an ongoing work, and we are satisfied that it is going in the right direction.
The legislation, peut-on savoir où en est le Organic Agricultural Bill?
It's in.
No, but this is, I think, another topic.
Maybe he wants to answer.
No. It doesn't matter whether the minister wants to reply or not. The minister has to follow my guidance also. Not only you. You, it's okay. But the minister himself, he has to follow my guidance. Next question.
B927.
Mr. Speaker, sir, there are different established complaint protocols which are applicable to both inpatients and outpatients attending public healthcare services. The modes of complaints are as follows. Any patient, whether inpatient or outpatient, can make a verbal or written complaint to the regional health director, the medical superintendent, or duty manager of the respective health institution. Complaints from patients are also dealt with at the information desk of the hospital, where an officer responsible for complaints provides all necessary assistance to complainants. In addition, patients may also submit their complaints via the Citizen Support Portal, where written complaints are directed to my ministry on an online platform. At the level of my ministry, a complaint coordinator is responsible for receiving all complaints. The complaints are resolved in a timely manner, and certain cases are referred to the regional health director, medical superintendent, or duty manager of the respective health institution for any necessary action. Patients may also choose to complain through any media platforms, whereby complaints are referred to the complaints coordinator of my ministry, either in writing or by phone. Similarly, the complaint coordinator, upon receipt of the complaint, would, as far as possible, find a timely solution to resolve same. Alternately, in more complex cases, the complaint is referred to the regional health director, medical superintendent, or duty manager of the respective health institution for necessary action. In other cases, patients may opt to write directly to the senior chief executive of my ministry to make an official complaint. The same procedure applies, and a report in the matter is sought from the regional health director, the medical superintendent, or duty manager of the respective institution. Another mode by which patients choose to submit complaints is through suggestion boxes, which are provided in all hospitals. The suggestion boxes are regularly checked, and all complaints are treated in a comparable manner by the director or the medical superintendent. Mr. Speaker, sir, irrespective of the mode of complaint, the regional health director, the superintendent, or duty manager of respective health institution conducts an inquiry with concerned head of departments to look into the matter. A meeting is then set up with the complainant and concerned staff so as to resolve the complaint. For more serious complaints of medical negligence, or in cases where the complainant is not satisfied with the explanations provided, the director forwards the complaint along with a report from all treating personnel on the case to my ministry. Mr. Speaker, sir, upon receipt of the complaint, as well as the report of the regional health director, medical superintendent, or duty manager, same are scrutinized at the level of the ministry by the Director Health Services, Director General Health Services, and officers of the administrative cadre. In case where complaint is substantiated, my ministry recommends an in-depth investigation into the case. Mr. Speaker, sir, the case is then referred to the Medical Negligence Standing Committee, which carry out investigations into all cases of complaints of alleged medical negligence at the level of public health institutions. Upon completion of the inquiry by the Medical Negligence Standing Committee, their inquiry report is submitted to my ministry. Irrespective of the findings of the inquiry report, the Medical Negligence Standing Committee communicates same to the complainant in case where there is evidence of medical negligence against a health practitioner. the case is referred to the relevant statutory body for an in-depth investigation and disciplinary action as warranted.
Par rapport aux plaintes qui ont été référées au Medical Negligence Standing Committee au courant de cette dernière année et conclues avec négligence médicale, l'honorable ministre peut-il nous dire si des mesures disciplinaires ont été prises envers le personnel concerné dans ces cas de négligence médicale comme prévu sous la section 46A du Public Service Commission Regulations?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. In fact, whenever complaints, the Medical Negligence Standing Committee submits its report on a case and on case-to-case basis. Whenever the officer has been identified who has not been doing his work properly, sanctions have been taken. I don't have the figures right with me, but I can provide this information to honorable members, especially when it concerns to serious cases.
Table the numbers
Yes.
the last year.
Definitely.
Thank
I will table all information for the last 3 years, number of cases treated and number of cases where there is medical negligence and the officers who have been, sanction taken against these officers.
Next question.
B928.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Government has, on the 5th of May 2023, approved the construction of a new market fair in Rosehill, comprising of a building of around 4 floors to house a new market fair and also to accommodate the activities of the DAPATEN and the new Arab Town fairs. In this respect, a first meeting was held on the 11th of May 2023 at the level of my ministry with representatives of the relevant ministries and departments, together with the Municipal Council of Boba-Saint-Rosil, in order to initiate the project preparation. During the meeting, it was agreed to set up a technical committee which would be chaired by the representatives of Ministry of Housing and Land Use Planning and comprising officers of the Municipal Council of Boba-Saint-Rosil, Road Development Authority, Traffic Management and Road Safety Unit to look into the proposed layout of the different components of the project, including traffic issues in the surrounding areas. Hence, no feasibility studies is being envisaged as a technical committee has been set up to look into the different components of the project. The technical committee has so far met on 2 occasions, and a third meeting would be held by next week. A report is expected from the technical team by mid-July 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that the project has been earmarked as project under preparation in the budget 23-24, given that there are a few plots of land still under acquisition process. A preliminary cost estimate of the project has been prepared by the Municipal Council of Boba-Saint-Rosil, and the financial clearance of the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Development has been sought on the 26th of June 2023 with respect to the procurement of consultancy services in the first instance. Once the financial clearance is obtained and all the identified plot of lands are vested in my ministry, request for proposal would be initiated by the Municipal Council of Boba-Saint-Rosil for the hiring of the service of a consultant.
Can the Honorable Vice Prime Minister inform the House whether all stakeholders, that is especially the market traders, vegetable, meat traders and others, are being consulted before decisions have been taken, and whether traders of the actual Rosehill market will be allocated the ground floor of the new planned market, and if not, why not?
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned, there is a technical committee who is meeting all the relevant stakeholders. That's number one. And I think it's a bit premature now to decide on who is going to get the ground floor or where in the market.
Next question.
B929.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the National Heritage Fund that in accordance with Section 12 of the National Heritage Fund Act 2003, the Board may recommend the following to my Ministry for designation as National Heritage. A, any monument. B, any object or site of cultural significance. C, any intangible heritage. D, any natural feature consisting of physical and biological formation or a group of such formations which are of outstanding value. And E, any geological and physiographical formation or precisely delineated area which consists the habitat of animals and plants of outstanding value. Mr. Speaker, sir, however, prior to the designation of a national heritage, the following criteria are taken into consideration. A, age of the building or structure. B, historical value. C, architectural value. D, state of the building / need for preservation. E, memorial value. F, uniqueness. And G, group value, that is a combination of the criteria listed above. Once these criteria are ascertained by the NHF, in case the proposed designated heritage site is a private property, the consent of the owner has to be sought and obtained. Moreover, consultations are held with the relevant stakeholders by the NHF to secure their consent. Mr. Speaker, sir, once it is established that the proposed heritage site can be designated as a national heritage, a statement of cultural significance comprising inter alia of location of the site, description of the site, and significance of the site is submitted to my ministry. Once all the documents are received, approval of cabinet is sought for the designation, and thereafter the regulations for the designation of national heritage is published in the Government Gazette.
And the Honourable Minister confirmed that there is actually a list of buildings, monuments, sites, and all buildings which are waiting for designation as national heritage. If so, when will his ministry proceed to designation?
Mr. Speaker, sir, listed sites are, as I said, gazetted, and they are listed in annex to the main regulation and the Act. Usually, when it comes to listing, we either receive requests from stakeholders or from the public in general to assess whether any building or monument or any other site is likely to be qualified as national heritage. So this is an ongoing process where the NHF carries out assessments and sends its recommendation to the ministry. But it might help Honourable Member to note that recent sites designated as national heritage include Bassin des Esclaves at Pamplemousse, listed on the 18th of April 2023, Marché des Esclaves at Pamplemousse, listed on that same day, Sitaram Satron building located in the compound of Arul Migon Sokalingam Minakshi Amen Temple at Saint-Croix, also listed on the 18th of April 2023, the Samadhi of Sahanero Jagnat at SSR Botanical Garden Pamplemousse, and the Samadhi of Sir Siusagaram Gulam at SSR Botanical, both on the 29th of March 2023, Old Stone Building at Krishnanand Seva Ashram Kalbas on the 6th of May 2022, and lastly, first flag hosting site for the independence of Mauritius in 1968 at Champ de Mars on the 6th May 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. The Minister of Arts stated in his speech during the budget debates that he will be coming forward with a new NHF bill. Can the Honourable Minister state where matters stand?
Mr. Speaker, sir, consultations...
No, I don't think this is proper. Don't venture, Minister. Don't venture. I think this question has been sufficiently canvassed. Let's move on to the next question. Honourable Leopold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. B930.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission, before replying to the question, I would like to extend my heartfelt condolences to the family of Mr. Anthony Rosalba, who passed away yesterday. He was a former football player of ASPL 2000. I would like also to express our concern for Mr. Jordi Prosper, a football player of Joachim Football Club and other national football selection, who sustained serious injuries in the same accident. We sincerely hope for his swift recovery and those who have been injured. Mr. Speaker, sir, the forthcoming Indian Ocean Islands Games are expected to be held in Madagascar from 25th August to 3rd September 2023. Apart from promoting the sports sector, the Indian Ocean Islands Games also promotes the interests of youth of the Indian Ocean through Volley Jeunesse. The Volley Jeunesse comprises of the Assemblée des jeunes, théâtre et chant et danse traditionnels. Young people aged 14 to 25 years were invited to register for participation in the Volley Jeunesse through Google form posted on the Facebook page of the ministry. 260 entries were received. Eligible candidates were called for selection exercise. 2 have been retained for Assemblée des jeunes and 6 have been retained for théâtre. With regards to chant et danse traditionnelle, this component has been reserved for our young Rodriguans, thus ensuring participation from the youth of the Republic of Mauritius. The Youth Department of the Commission for Youth and Sports, Arts and Culture Library Services carried out a selection exercise. 3 boys and 3 girls have been selected and rehearsals are ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Can the Honourable Minister inform the House where those young people come from, the different regions in Rodrigues?
I don't have the answer for all those who were called for selection, but I have for the 3 girls and 3 boys selected. The 3 girls come from Pavé-la-Bonté, Montagne Malgache, Latanier, and the 3 boys come from Pompée, Grande Montagne, and Tam. Yes, Tam.
Next question. Yes, B931.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part A and B of the question, I'm informed that a contract for the upgrading of Canal Anglais in Port Louis was awarded to Superbuilders Company Limited on the 30th of October 2020 for an amount of 114,757,925 inclusive of VAT by the National Development Unit. The initial contractual completion date was 30th November 2021. I'm further informed that there has been a delay in the completion of the project for various reasons, including the national lockdown in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, the undertaking of geotechnical investigations prior to the construction works, and the unsuitable ground condition identified, clearances for felling of trees, additional works requested by force wave of the region, particularly for raising of walls, additional work for new footbridge for the Kurtuba Mosque of Pearl Toro and Masjid Madinatul Munawara at Cité Martial, and additional works for structural repairs to Islamic School for Disabled Children at Cité Martial. Mr. Speaker, sir, the additional works relating to the geotechnical investigation and new footbridges will entail additional expenditure to the tune of 20.2 million, bringing the total amount cost of the project around 134 million inclusive of VAT. As at date, 103 million has already been disbursed. As regard to part C of the question, I'm advised that the works will now be completed by end of August 2023 after the remaining remaining outstanding works have been attended to, namely A, remaining 15% non-structural reinforced concrete slabs at Islamic School for Disabled Children, fencing work before the handing over of the project to the Municipal City Council of Port Louis, given that the previous fencing which were installed was stolen, and provision for a steel pedestrian bridge at the Masjid Madinatul Munawara at Cité Martial, where works have already been completed at 15% as at now. Thank you.
Sir, I have 2 supplementary questions. The objective of the works was to repair and reconstruct
the canal only, so as to prevent rainwater from flowing into nearby houses. Can I ask the Honourable Minister if he is aware that despite the work that has been performed, that has been carried out, as he mentioned in his reply, that water is still flowing in the house of people living nearby, which means that there could be that the work has not been done properly.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I do understand the concern of my honourable colleague. And in fact, true, there has been seepage of water through the canal because we have realized during the work, during the geotechnical investigation, that there were cavities under base of the canal, and it has been mapped using ground penetration radar technology. And this is one other reason for the delay of the project. And a special cement based on grout has been injected under the canal using a special pump without needing the demolition of the canal. So now it's only during the next rainfall that we will be able to test the efficacy of the treatment. Well, if there is extensive, I must say, no, not seepage, cavities, lava channels that goes up to the harbor. And we might have missed a few. We might have missed a few. I hope not. But to the extent that the work has been done, the experts are confirming that it should be all right now. So let's see, let's hope next rainy season it should work better.
Mr. Speaker, in view of the situation, can I ask the Honourable Minister if his ministry could delegate engineers or officers of his ministry to carry out a site visit and not to wait for the next rainy season, could carry out a site visit so that people living nearby will know exactly where the water is coming, where there is a seepage which is coming to the house, so that he can ask his officers to remedy to the situation.
Like I've answered, Mr. Speaker, sir, the situation we have already remedied. We have done extensive mapping of the cavities using what I've called a penetration radar technology. So that has been done already. The visit has been done already. And I must thank my colleague, Dr. Anwar Snow and Honorable Abbas Mahmoud for their help and during the site visit and for their requests. In fact, all those additional work regarding the Meuse of Paul Toro, it was to their request that this additional work has been added to this project. So next time we'll make sure that we invite you to for a site visit.
Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. B932, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed that there are 6 companies actively involved in the trade and export of macaque. 1, Bioculture Mauritius Limited. 2, Noveprime. 3, Le Tamarinier Limited. 4, Les Campèches Limited. 5th, Sinologics Limited, and 6th, Biosphere Trading Limited. With regard to the export of macaque to the United States of America, I am informed that the 6 companies have, during the year 2019, during the year 2019, exported a total of 3,492 macaque, and in the year 2020, 7,234. However, I am informed that no macaque have been exported from Mauritius directly to the state of Michigan. It may happen that after arrival in the United States of America, macaque may have been subsequently transferred to Michigan or other states. Such transfer is not communicated to Mauritius as it falls under the jurisdiction of the competent authorities of the United States. I am aware, Mr. Speaker, sir, of recent articles in the local press alleging that in the year 2021, tuberculosis was detected in macaque apparently exported from Mauritius in a research laboratory in Michigan. However, the Livestock and Veterinary Division of my ministry is not in presence of any report from the Veterinary Authority of the USA so far on cases of tuberculosis in macaque exported from Mauritius to the USA. I am also informed that following inquiry made by the National Parks and Conservation Service with all the 6 exporting companies, all 6 exporting companies have confirmed that they are not in presence of any report or correspondence on cases of tuberculosis in macaque exported from Mauritius.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Minister, with regard to the permits that are given for the exportation of those long-tailed macaques, are they permits given to capture wild long-tailed macaques, or there is a specific permit for breeding of those long-tailed macaques and then you export them?
Yes, it's for breeding and then export. It's very strictly regulated, Mr. Speaker, sir. It is regulated under the Native Terrestrial Biodiversity and National Parks Act 2015, and it is in all the rules are in line with the guidelines of the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the International Primatological Society, IPS, and the Association for Assessment and Accreditation of Laboratory Animal Care International.
Can the Honourable Minister inform this House whether there is a defined protocols with regards to the breeding of those primates? Because there are several reports in the international press that long-tailed macaques from Mauritius are being exported from the wild. They are captured from the wild. Can the Honourable Minister disseminate information and also communicate that Mauritius, we do not export long-tailed macaques captured from the wild?
My honourable colleague is sufficiently experienced enough to know that we should take the articles in the press with a pinch of salt. I say it again, it is heavily regulated. It pleases some people just to throw articles in the press to tarnish the reputation of this country. I am satisfied that, and the ministry is satisfied that everything is being done in strict compliance with the applicable regulations, Mr. Speaker, sir. If we don't apply the regulations, those international laboratories will not even trade with us. This is the baseline.
Next question.
B933.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to refer the honourable gentleman to my previous replies in respect of the National Social Living Development Limited construction project and to my intervention during debates on the supplementary appropriation bill, in the course of which I informed the House that the NSLD proceeded with 2 open bidding exercises for the construction of 12,000 housing units in August 2022 and November 2022 respectively, both of which bidding exercises proved to be inconclusive. As a result, government in February 2023 opted for a new procurement strategy based on the design and build concept to ensure cost certainty and affordability of the housing units. In line with the relevant provisions of the Public Procurement Act, the NSLD proceeded with selective tendering, targeting all 19 locally incorporated large contractors, building and civil works, registered with the Construction Industry Development Board, CIDB. On 6 February 2023, an expression of interest was thus sent to all 19 large CIDB-registered contractors, inviting them to express their interest for the construction of a minimum of 200 housing units, up to 1,000 housing units, approximately, at a predetermined price of 2.7 million rupees per housing unit, inclusive of on-site infrastructural works. Of the 19 CIDB registered large contractors, only 16 responded, out of which 14 were found to be compliant with the requirements of the expression of interest. Letters of intent were on 3rd March 2023, I'm informed, issued to these 14 compliant contractors, all 14 compliant contractors. That is, Beijing Construction Engineering Company Limited, DLB Construction Company Limited, Gamma Construction Limited, General Construction Company Limited, Hyvec Partners Limited, Kuros Construction Solutions Limited, NG and Company Limited, Ramaswamy and Ramaswamy Company Limited, RBRB, Rem Grinaker Company Limited, Square Deal Multipurpose Cooperative Society Limited, Super Construction Company Limited, Daileme and Sons Enterprise Limited, and Transinvest. After assessment of preliminary and thereafter final designs, the NSLD, I'm informed, proceeded to enter into contractual agreements with all the above-mentioned contractors. I am further informed by the NSLD that a letter of award was accordingly on 22nd May 2023 issued to NG and Company Limited for the construction of a total of 800 housing units over 3 sites. I am further informed by the NSLD that NG and Company Limited has, however, not accepted the letter of award within the prescribed time period, and that the NSLD has issued a termination letter to the said contractor. Accordingly, as of today, NG and Company Limited is not a contractor of the NSLD for phase 1 of the 12,000 social housing units project.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can we know from the Honourable Minister, now that NG and Company Limited will not go ahead with the contract, what will happen for the project of constituency number 8 and 4?
I understand that 3 sites were earmarked for NG and Company Limited. Now, NSLD, in accordance, I'm informed, with the legal advice it has sought, and according to relevant provisions of legislation relating to procurement, will proceed to select 3 other contractors from the same list of CIDB registered large contractors to be entrusted with these 3 sites.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, can we know the reason addressed to the NSLD why NG Gopi is not going ahead with the project?
I'm afraid the honourable gentleman might need to contact NG and Company Limited. I'm not aware of any particular reason.
Next question.
B934. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to inform the House that Mr. Odas Constantin, a Romanian national, was offered a 1-year employment contract as the National Technical Director for Weightlifting on 13th February 2023. He assumed his duties on 27 April 2023. Mr. Constantin is currently receiving a monthly salary of 95,000 rupees, along with a monthly allowance of 45,000 rupees for additional duties. As per the terms and conditions of his contract, Mr. Constantin is entitled to 21 days of sick leave, 21 days of annual leave, an allowance to cover the maximum cost of 25 kilograms of excess luggage by air, a transfer grant equivalent to 2% of his annual allowance to cover incidental charges, loan facilities upon the expiry of the final contract, and a gratuity at the rate of 1 month's allowance upon completing 12 months of satisfactory service. My ministry reserves the right to terminate Mr. Constantin's employment at any time by providing a 1 month's written notice or by paying him a 1 month's salary. The duties and responsibilities of Mr. Constantin are: 1. Advise on the development and promotion of weightlifting in Mauritius, prepare development programs, and provide technical assistance for the training of weightlifters for international competitions, such as the Indian Ocean Islands Games 2023, All Africa Games, Francophone Games, African Weightlifting Championships, and the 2024 Olympic Games, in line with the requirements of my ministry and the Mauritius Weightlifting Federation. 2. Advise and coach the junior, senior, elite weightlifting team for major competitions. 3. Assist the Mauritius Weightlifting Federation in establishing a technical commission with the appropriate structure responsible for coaching related matters, such as coaches' responsibilities, talent identification and training. 4. Assist in the selection of weightlifters for national and international competitions. 5. Conduct training for animators, coaches in weightlifting skills and techniques. 6. Assist in the setting up of weightlifting training structures across the island. And 7. Perform any other duties directly related to the main responsibilities listed above and any task associated with delivering the expected outputs and results ascribed to the National Technical Director. Regarding Part B of the question, with your permission, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm tabling a copy of the qualifications of Mr. Constantin.
Avec votre permission, je voudrais m'associer à l'honorable ministre des Sports pour présenter mes plus vives sympathies à la famille et aux proches du footballeur Anthony Rosalba, qui a trouvé la mort dans un accident de la route hier soir. Et je présente aussi mes souhaits de bon rétablissement à un autre jeune footballeur, Gordy Prosper, qui lui est en soins intensifs. Ceci dit, Monsieur le Président, selon les informations qui me sont parvenues, le président de la Fédération d'haltérophilie a émis des réserves par rapport au recrutement de M. Urdas Constantin. De ce fait, le ministre peut-il nous dire si son ministère ne prend pas le risque de plonger l'haltérophilie mauricienne dans le spectre du dopage, surtout quand on sait qu'il y a eu plusieurs de nos athlètes qui ont été contrôlés positifs aux produits prohibés alors qu'ils étaient sous la supervision de ce même DTN, M. Urdas Constantin, en 2015 et 2016.
Monsieur le Président, nous ne prenons aucune décision sans l'approbation d'une fédération, de n'importe quelle fédération. Et en ce qui s'agit, ici, là, nous parlons de l'haltérophilie. Donc, plusieurs réunions ont été faites et à l'heure que je vous parle, personnellement, ou le ministère, nous n'avons reçu aucune contestation de la part du président de la fédération. Et nous sommes en train de travailler de concert pour préparer nos athlètes pour les Jeux des îles qui arrivent. Lorsqu'il s'agit de probable, puisqu'il n'y a aucune enquête qui a prouvé que M. Constantin est coupable de dopage, au niveau de la fédération, il n'y a pas ce genre de document.
L'honorable ministre est certainement informé qu'une haltérophile de haut niveau a été suspendue par l'International Testing Agency pour un test positif qui date de 2016 lors d'un contrôle hors compétition fait en Roumanie. De ce fait, le ministre peut-il nous dire si cet athlète qui était sous la supervision de M. Urdas Constantin à cette période?
Bon, c'est très difficile pour moi de retrouver tout ça dans le nombre. Alors, non, je n'ai pas cette information avec moi.
Next question.
B935.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the District Council of Rivière-du-Rempart that a claim amounting to 6,156,547 rupees, representing professional fees and other expenses incurred by Alpha Mix Limited in respect of the appeal case made before the Privy Council has now been received. As far as the information requested regarding the breakdown of the legal fees, same cannot be disclosed as they are confidential to Alpha Mix and its legal representative.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Will the Honourable Vice Prime Minister inform the House what happened to the ICAC inquiry following the anonymous letter received on 10 February 2014 pertaining to allegations against both the arbitrator and the Council of Alpha Mix Limited, as he mentioned in his answer to my PQB 755 on 20th June 2023.
Mr. Speaker says this is not included in this question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought you changed your technique of putting question. This is a full question, full-fledged question you're asking a minister without giving notice.
It relates to the same issue.
It never mind. Everything relates to everything. In politics, in parliament, everything relates to everything.
I'm talking to Alpha Mix. Will the Honourable Vice Prime Minister,
You should have the faculty.
will the will the Honourable Vice Prime Minister inform the House whether the advice of the SLU was formally sought on whether such information, as I said, should be kept confidential and not divulged in this House?
But, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it's a bit unfair to release the legal fees of.
Let me announce PQB 944,
if you want to protest,
B951, B955, B965, B970, B971, B974, B977, B980, and B985 have been withdrawn.
Does it make sense? Hey.
So, next question.
B936.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the District Council of Grand Port that a contract for the design and build project construction of New Mayberg Market Fair was awarded on the 17th of August 2019 for an amount of 83,726,181 rupees and 25 cents, inclusive of VAT, to EDCC Limited, following approval of the Central Procurement Board. The contract agreement was signed on the 12th of September 2019. The start date of the project was the 19th of September 2019, and the initial completion date was 18th of December 2021. However, due to amendment made in the design of the building, such as increase in height of the main building, relocation of the toilet blocks, provision of rainwater harvesting, and construction of parking space, the cost was reviewed to 104 million rupees. The project was delayed due to confinement as a result of COVID-19 outbreak, and also due to the construction of a boundary wall opposite the site, which was being undertaken by the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Sport and Recreation. Unfortunately, the construction of the boundary wall prevented the timely relocation of CB pole, which formed part of the project. The revised completion date was extended twice, firstly to April 2022 and subsequently to June 2022. However, the contractor has requested for extension of time up to November 2022. The contractor has submitted a claim on the 21st of February 2022 for the sum of 6,328,818 rupees and 36 cents, which included extension of time with cost, to which the Council was not agreeable as per Directive number 55 issued by the Procurement Policy Office under the Public Procurement Act 2006, i.e. extension of time shall be granted without any additional cost. On the 9th of June 2022, the contractor informed the Council that it had suspended all the work on site as from 2nd of June 2022. On the 24th of June 2022, a check of 1,965,130 rupees and 32 cents, representing part payment for claim number 11, was issued by the Council to the contractor, but the latter refused to collect same. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the 17th of August 2022, the contractor informed the Council that it shall terminate the contract as from the 22nd of August 2022, ceasing all obligation to provide lighting, watchmanship service on site as from the 23rd of August 2022. A meeting was scheduled with the contractor at the seat of the Council on the 7th of August 2022, but the latter did not attend despite several reminders and telephone call. On the other hand, a cost controller was appointed by the District Council of Grand Port to look into the contractual issues. The latter submitted his report on the 14th of September 2022. Several discrepancies were noted by the cost controller during the submission of the original design, submission of amended design during the execution of the work, and excess amount claimed by the latter for work not completed on site. A performance review committee was set up at the level of the Council as per Directive number 35 issued by the PPO and met on the 18th of November 2022. The contractor was informed accordingly, but he did not reply to the Council. Therefore, the Council decided to terminate the contract with EDCC Limited on the 10th of January 2023, and debarment procedures are being followed by the Council. It is to be noted that the performance security amounting to 8,372,618 rupees and 13 cents submitted by the contractor has been forfeited by the District Council in December 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Considering that the contractor vacated the site, can we know from the Minister what will be the way forward for the construction of the new market fair? Thank you.
Actually, we've had a meeting with MNI, and we have discussed how we are going to proceed with the project. And a team has been set up under the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, and they are going to work on the project, and then this is how we are going to proceed with the project.
Next question. B937.
Monsieur le Président, je remercie l'honorable membre pour cette question. Le gouvernement mauricien développe par l'intermédiaire de Landscope Mauritius Limited le projet de la Côte d'Or Integrated Smart City sur une superficie totale d'environ 920 hectares, soit 2179 arpents. La ville est développée sur un vaste terrain stratégiquement situé au centre du pays, à Côte d'Or, à proximité d'importants développements existants et de futurs développements substantiels planifiés. L'émergence de cette nouvelle ville, levier de croissance et d'emploi, s'accompagnera d'investissements publics dans les infrastructures physiques à vocation communautaire, éducative et de santé, y compris des universités, des établissements de santé, des équipements collectifs, des liaisons de transport public et d'aménagement des rues, ainsi que des améliorations connexes, y compris des infrastructures modernes de transport et de services. Le plan directeur de la Smart City de Côte d'Or comprend différents projets qui sont et seront développés grâce à des investissements publics et privés sur le terrain appartenant à Landscope à Côte d'Or. Monsieur le Président, en ce qui concerne la partie A de la question, j'ai été informé que Landscope ne construira que les travaux d'infrastructure de la Smart City, dont le coût total est estimé à environ 2,3 milliards de roupies. Plus précisément, le gouvernement financera les travaux d'infrastructure hors site à hauteur d'environ 1,7 milliard de roupies et l'ANSCO financera les travaux d'infrastructure sur site dont le coût est estimé à environ 600 millions de roupies. Tous les projets du Data Technology Park et de l'Education and Health Hub dont le coût total est estimé à plus de 34 milliards de roupies seront financés par le secteur privé à l'exception de l'Open University qui financera son propre projet. Monsieur le Président, pour ce qui est de la partie B de la question, la réalisation complète du Code d'or Smart City se déroulera sur plusieurs années. Les travaux ont débuté et certains ont d'ores et déjà été complétés. Concernant les travaux d'infrastructure financés par le gouvernement mauricien et l'ANSCO que je viens de mentionner, ces derniers seront réalisés sous 24 mois. Pour ce qui est des autres éléments de cette Smart City, j'ai été informé que le calendrier de réalisation est soumis à plusieurs variables en raison de la nature et de l'envergure du projet, mais aussi des différentes parties prenantes publiques et privées impliquées dans le financement et l'implémentation du projet dans son ensemble. Merci.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister mentioned that the bulk of the project will be financed by the private sector. So may I ask the Honourable Minister whether any request for proposal or expression of interest has been issued to the private sector and whether there has been any feedback from the private sector to finance this project?
Monsieur le Président, le parc, je vais prendre par exemple le parc technologique de Côte d'Or, le Data Park, est en cours de développement sur environ 150 arpents de terrain. Et nous avons mis à disposition du secteur privé 15 lots, dont la taille varie de 3 à 13 arpents. À la suite de l'exercice d'expression d'intérêt, nous avons reçu des offres pour 12 lots de la part de 9 promoteurs. Je peux les citer, donner quelques noms, donc Inodis Property Limited, Maeva TSC Limited, KDA Park Limited, Verdun Garden Limited, Nexera Limited, Vivacity Limited, Green Technopark Limited, Bagatech Innovation Limited, Ava Technopark Limited. Tous ces opérateurs du secteur privé sont en grande partie dans le secteur médical, l'intelligence et le secteur aussi ICT. Et biotechnologie. Donc, pour ces projets, sur tous ces projets, il y en a 2 qui sont déjà en cours et qui vont terminer très bientôt leur projet de construction.
According to the public sector investment program, 4 buildings will be constructed to accommodate more than 5,000 public offices in the smart city of Côte d'Or. I know from the Honourable Minister whether these buildings are meant to relocate the public offices from Emmanuel Anctil Building to Côte d'Or?
Je vais, sur cette question, ce sera par la suite qu'on va déterminer si ceux qui sont au Emmanuel Anctil Building vont être, je vais dire, relogés au Côte d'Or, pour les bâtiments qu'on va construire à Côte d'Or. Pour le moment, c'est les ministères qui sont concernés et qui sont dans le bâtiment sont à la recherche de nouveaux locaux pour leurs employés.
Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. B 938.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the Central Water Authority that with regard to the implementation of the water supply and distribution project for the region of L'Aventure, the outstanding hydraulic works have been completed. As for the permanent reinstatement works, the Central Water Authority has awarded the contract to Gamma Construction Limited in May 2023 for the milling and full width resurfacing of roads in L'Aventure. Works have started on the 28th June 2023 and are expected to be completed by the end of August 2023. For the region of Bon Accueil and Belvedere, the hydraulic works are being undertaken in-house by the Central Water Authority. Works started in January 2023 and are expected to be completed by July 2023. The permanent road reinstatement for the region will be carried out in 2 phases. The Central Water Authority has awarded the contract for Phase 1 to Gamma Construction Limited in May 2023 for the milling and full width resurfacing of part of the Port Louis Central Flat Road A2, and works are expected to start soon. The duration of the works will be for a period of 3 months. Procurement process for the Phase 2 of the permanent road reinstatement works, that is from Pont Bon Dieu Road to Junction Belvedere, will be initiated thereafter. The duration of works are estimated for 3 months. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir, yeah. So the network of L'Aventure, it goes up to the village of Pont Blanc. So can the Honorable Minister inform the House if the resurfacing of, when he mentions L'Aventure, the contract that has been awarded to Gamma, as he stated in his reply, will that be extended up to Pont Blanc? Can he please inform the House? Thank you.
Let me check, Mr. Speaker, sir, whether I have that information with me. No, Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't have the information to be able to confirm what I've just been said. But anyway, I'll be able to provide the information requested for by the Honourable Member at a later stage, if you don't mind.
The Honourable Minister inform the House if there is any specific reason why the work of Belvedere has been split into 2 phases.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, like I've stated in my reply, because the works have been carried out in-house and it has taken some time for the CWA to complete the works. So to be able to move forward at a good pace, that's why they have split the reinstatement works into 2 phases.
Next question.
B-stroke 939, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Financial Intelligence Unit that following a referral, an application for restraining order was made and was obtained on 17th of September 2021, whereby a sum of 326,300 rupees was restrained. I'm also informed by the FIU that further to investigation carried out and intelligence received in December 2022, it was revealed that Mr. JHC owns several movable and immovable properties. In this respect, the FIU applied for and obtained another restraining order in January 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, investigation is currently ongoing on the bank accounts of Mr. JHC, as well as on 8 of his family members who are suspected to be Bretno. Thank you.
Will the Honourable Minister state it has been established that he is in business partnership with the senior officer of the SST, Special Striking Team?
Mr. Speaker, like I said, the inquiry is still going on, and at this stage, I can't reveal more than what I've said in my reply.
Am I to understand, Minister, that these are proceeds from the sale of drugs, and we've been told that he's a big funder of the MSM. Am I right to say so?
Next question.
B940.
Mr.
But I reserve the right to ask you to withdraw this. Can you please withdraw that?
Which part of the question?
You know.
Okay.
You're
I
a
will-
gentleman, you know better than.
B 940. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the Sugar Industry Labour Welfare Fund that in view of increasing demand from the inhabitants of the locality, necessary actions have already been initiated to rent an appropriate space with all the required facilities and amenities in order to be able to house a community centre in the vicinity of the region of Sadali. In this context, the Sugar Industry Labour Welfare Fund invited bids through open advertisement on the 15th of February this year in the local press, and as at the closing date of 15th of March of this year for submission of bids, only 2 bids were received. I am also informed that SELF is in the process of examining those bids. The contract will be awarded following the approval of the SELF main committee. In the meantime, Mr. Speaker, sir, the inhabitants of that locality are being redirected to the municipal hall at Vacua and the multipurpose complex at Réunion to benefit from activities being carried out thereat.
La ministre peut-elle indiquer à la Chambre pourquoi ce centre communautaire à Sadali est resté inactif, c'est-à-dire sans aucune activité, pendant 2 ans, malgré l'embauche de 5 personnes, ce qui semble être un gaspillage évident de fonds publics?
No, Mr. Speaker, so it's not correct to say that it is a wastage of public funds. The centre has not had any activities for the past 2 and probably even longer than that, because all the centres across the island were shut during the pandemic. There has been, since it has reopened, there is an ongoing process to allocate a new premises to house the community centre of Sadali. So there have not been any activities in most of the centres during the lockdown period and a little bit after that as well.
La ministre pourrait-elle informer à la Chambre si une pétition a circulé parmi les habitants de la région réclamant la fermeture de ce centre communautaire en raison de l'influence disproportionnée qu'exerce un agent politique proche du MSM?
Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Speaker, sir, it looks like my party is very popular and very influential, by the way. If they're managing to influence that kind of behavior, Mr. Speaker, sir, again, the honourable member is not correct in what she's stating. Yes, there has been a petition, but not for the reason that she's presuming. There has been a petition by the inhabitants of that locality to not even have a community centre in that region. So a community centre, the very definition of a community centre is pour être à l'écoute, au service des habitants. So if there is a petition of inhabitants of that locality not wanting to have a community centre in this specific region, hence the reason why there have been bids, there have been expression of interest, advertisement to find another appropriate premise where the services of such community centres are going to be welcomed by the inhabitants. C'est qui parle, parle?
Next question.
B 941. Yes. Bear with me, Mr. Speaker, sir. Yes, I refer the honourable member and the House to the reply I made at the sitting of the 16th of May this year for PQB 525, in which I stated that yet the definition of street children is indeed very ambiguous and is subject to several interpretations worldwide. However, I would like to, Mr. Speaker, sir, to specify that sections 11 to 19 and section 31 of the Children's Act of 2020, which refers to, and I quote, offences against children and children in need of assistance, care and protection, respectively, those sections provide for an umbrella of protection where interventions, when necessary, are geared towards all children, whether or not in street situation. It is also worth noting that the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child Mr. Speaker, sir, itself calls upon member states to adopt a child's right approach. That being said, I am convinced that the Children's Act 2020 is making sufficient provision for protection and care for all Mauritian children, irrespective of them being street children or not. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, I wish to highlight that one of the functions of the Ombudsperson for Children, as per Section 6G of the Ombudsperson for Children Act of 2003, is to, and I quote, investigate cases relating to the situation of children in the family, in schools, and in all other institutions, including private or public bodies, as well as cases of abandoned children or street children. So there is a reference, a legal reference of street children in our legal landscape, but there is no definition as yet. Nevertheless, I would welcome any proposal from the honourable member who put forward the PQ, and I reassure her that my ministry will give her proposal due consideration. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président, je rappelle à la ministre qu'elle avait répondu à une question posée par la parlementaire, la deuxième députée de Beaubassin-Rosil, de Beaubassin-Petite-Rivière, pardon, qu'elle allait prendre en considération le fait de présenter un projet de loi sur les enfants de rue à l'Assemblée nationale. Et il y avait même eu une question supplémentaire pour demander quand est-ce que cela allait être fait. La ministre avait expliqué, avait dit soon.
Soon is not tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, sir.
La ministre peut-elle nous dire si, en attendant, son ministère compte procéder au recrutement de street workers, de travailleurs de rue, pour encadrer ces enfants, comme ce fut le cas entre 2000 et 2005.
Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, I did make reference to my PQ, which I answered about a month and a half ago in the House on the 16th of May, and I did indeed say that we will be working on something that will capture, on a legal framework that will capture. But then having gone and seen the provisions already in the Children's Act and that of the Ombudsperson for Children Act of 2003, I have just replied in my main reply that there are sufficient provisions in those two pieces of legislation to cater for care and protection of all the children. And as to the question whether we're going to be putting into effect street workers to cater for these children, Mr. Speaker, so when we bring legislation into play, we make sufficient provisions for the implementation thereof. Therefore, I am of the belief that we have sufficient workforce and personnel to be able to cater for such cases and such events of children being found dans les conditions de rue.
Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. B942.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Financial Services Commission that it has on its record 3 private pension schemes for the sponsoring employer of the Mauritius Turf Club. There is no record of any pension scheme registered under the name of the Mauritius Turf Club Sports and Leisure Company Limited, that is MTCSL, as the sponsoring employer. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm further informed that the MTC has 2 defined benefit schemes and 1 defined contribution scheme with 144 active members and 72 active members, respectively. These schemes are administered by a pension scheme administrator, duly licensed by the FSC. Mr. Speaker, sir, with respect to the DC scheme, I'm informed by the FSC that contribution deductions of 2% were made from the salaries of the employees from October 2022 to March 2023, amounting to a total amount of 146,995 rupees, but were not remitted to the pension scheme administrator. Instead, the contributions were held into the accounts of the employer. The administrator committed a breach of Rule 9.6 of the Private Pension Schemes Administration Rules 2014 for failing to inform the FSC that the employer had stopped contributing to the DC scheme for at least 2 consecutive months. Upon a follow-up made by the FSC on 1st June 2023 with the pension scheme administrator, the latter informed that the total amount of contributions deducted from the employees had been fully remitted by the MTC on 6 June 2023 to the pension scheme. On 26 June 2023, the FSC was notified by the administrator that the MTC was working on options to settle the employer's contribution worth a total of 710,007 rupees, which had not yet been remitted to the scheme for the period from October 2022 to March 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, the FSC has further informed that there was a proposal from MTC since 2016 to convert the 2 DB schemes into a new DC scheme. An essential condition for the conversion of a DB scheme into a DC scheme is that the DB scheme should be fully funded. As the employer could not fund the DB scheme fully, no application was made to the FSC in that respect, despite the fact that the employer had requested employees to contribute 3% from their salaries for remittance into the new DC scheme. As such, the deductions were not remitted to the new DC scheme and were subsequently refunded to the concerned employees with interest. In this respect, 154 beneficiaries were called upon to collect their check payments since 5th of May 2023, and the total amount refunded, including interest, was 6,308,244 rupees. And as at 22nd June 2023, 20 beneficiaries have not yet collected their checks, worth a total of 693,489 rupees. Mr. Speaker, sir, according to the scheme's actuary, the deficit accruing due to non-contributions by the employer into the DB schemes have accumulated to around 100 million rupees as at December 2022, as compared to 68 million rupees as at December 2018. Given that there was no contingency plan to fund the deficits in a specific time frame, the 2 DB schemes were deemed to be in breach of Section 21 of the Private Pension Schemes Act. Several meetings were held between the FSC and the MTC to come up with a solution for the funding of the DB schemes. However, the MTC could not generate the necessary resources to fund the DB schemes. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed that the FSC is presently liaising with the pension scheme administrator to have the MTC submit an appropriate contingency plan in order to remedy the underfunding status of the schemes. The FSC is closely monitoring the situation, and appropriate actions would be taken in the event that the contingency plan is not submitted within 1 month. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, so I'll have 2 supplementary questions. Since the MTC has transferred those employees to the MTCL without, transferring its asset, as mentioned, to the company, is the MTC still liable to honour the pension rights to those employees?
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, accrued pension benefits are in the personal member accounts of members in the DC scheme and are held by the administrator, that is the company which is administrating the funds, the pension funds, and is therefore ring-fenced from the employer. So with respect to the DB scheme, the DB members rather, the value of assets accumulated so far in the DB schemes will be proportionately available on retirement to the members. And as at December 2022, the amount of assets available is 90 million rupees, 90,675,000 rupees, and the deficit is approximately, like I said, 100 million rupees. Therefore, the DB assets are also ring-fenced in the scheme and are available to the members on retirement. So as the MTCSL is 100% owned by the MTC, and as the MTC has submitted as the sponsoring employer of the 3 pension schemes, therefore it remains the liable to those members, and they have to honor the rights of the members of the pension funds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. In case the company goes into liquidation, as already decided by its board of directors, can the Honourable Minister state to the House whether the employees of MTCSL could end up losing all their pension rights in case it goes into liquidation? And in that scenario, what action could be initiated to protect the rights of those employees?
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, like I said, whatever contribution has been made into that pension scheme is ring-fenced. That is, they are in the personal name of those members of that fund, that is the employees. So whatever amount is already in the scheme is for the benefit of the employees. But as in this particular case, there is a deficit, which the employer hasn't yet made up for that deficit. So in case it goes into liquidation, the employees will only benefit whatever amount is as a date in those pension schemes. So they will probably lose out on any amount that is not made up as the deficit that is actually comprised of in the scheme. So of course it's going to lose out part of it because so far the deficit hasn't been made up. But I believe, I'm informed by the FSC that the MTC has made a commitment to sell part of their assets to be able to make up for that deficit. So, but still yet to be made.
Announce that PQ B947, B948, B962, B963, B973, and B986 have been withdrawn. Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. B943.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like first of all to inform the House that the Sports Act 2016 does not include any provision for the registration of national sports federations with my ministry. Instead, they are required to register with the Registrar of Associations. However, it is important to note that Section 10 of the Sports Act 2016 outlines the specific requirements that national sports federations must fulfill in order to be eligible for financial assistance from my ministry. Currently, a total of 21 non-Olympic federations are receiving various forms of assistance, both financially and otherwise, from my ministry. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm tabling the list of non-Olympic national sports federations along with the number of athletes licensed to each federation. With regard to Part B of the question, I would like to inform the honourable member and the House that the national sports federations have been requested to submit their development plans outlining their proposed activities for the upcoming financial year. These plans will serve as the basis for determining the budget allocation to each national sports federation. This process ensures that the financial support provided by my ministry aligns with the planned activities and objectives of each national sports federation for the financial year 2023-2024. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I have one question with regards to la Fédération de Boxe Française, which, as the Honourable Minister is well aware, keeps our flag flying during various international competitions by winning a lot of medals. Now, is the Honourable Minister aware that the financial requirement for that sport federation is about 2.3 million yearly? But unfortunately, that federation gets only a meager 200,000 rupees out of a budget of 50 million rupees has been earmarked for sports federation. Now, will the minister consider an increase in the budget for that particular federation?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. First of all, la Fédération mauricienne de boxe française Savate, dans le dernier budget, last financial year 2022-2023, have been allocated a budget of 300,000 rupees. Non, il y a une différence de 100 000 roupies. Et comme je l'ai dit dans ma réponse initiale, nous attendons le plan de chaque fédération, be it olympique ou non olympique, et cet exercice est en train d'être fait en ce moment. Donc, de par le plan que la Fédération mauricienne de boxe française Savate va nous soumettre, dépendant de les différentes compétitions internationales, nous allons éventuellement voir la somme que nous allons allouer. Il est aussi bon de noter que la Fédération mauricienne de boxe française a pu mettre un peu d'ordre dans leurs affaires récemment, parce qu'il y avait beaucoup de problèmes internes dans cette fédération. Alors on dirait qu'ils sont neufs maintenant, et vivants et dynamiques, et c'est récent, ça date je crois que de 2021, donc ils sont assez récents avec la nouvelle direction et la présidente, on a pas mal de réunions souvent ensemble, et je comprends, bien sûr, évidemment, autant que possible, nous allons essayer d'aider.
Allowances for the coaches of non-Olympic disciplines. Is he aware that these coaches do not get any allowance, although they help tremendously in shaping up those athletes, and they don't even get a pension? Now, does the minister intend to do anything about this?
Il y a deux choses là, soit allowance, soit pension. On regarde un peu, aidez-moi. Non, Monsieur le Président, j'ai compris la question. Deux choses. Premièrement, la pension, le ministère ne donne pas de pension aux coachs, etc. We have the athlete recognition that we have for athletes qui ont brillé sur minimum le niveau africain, etc. Il faut que ce soit dit clairement, parce que tout ça est rapporté, Hansard, la presse, etc. En ce qui s'agit des coachs, il faut que les fédérations fassent leur demande. Je vais vérifier, l'honorablement m'a parlé de la Fédération mauricienne de boxe française Savate, je vais vérifier s'ils ont fait une demande pour que leurs coachs reçoivent une allocation, parce que dans d'autres disciplines, c'est le cas. Mais la demande doit venir de la fédération.
Next question.
B945. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that the Northern Plain Irrigation Project consists of 3 types of irrigation systems, namely center pivot irrigation system, high pressure sprinkler system, and the drip irrigation system. The normal frequency of water supply is 25 millimeters of water weekly for center pivot, 25 millimeters every 10 days for high pressure sprinkler, and 5 millimeters daily over 6 days a week for the drip irrigation project. I wish to add, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the 5 millimeters is roughly equivalent to 50 meter cube per hectare, while 25 millimeter would be roughly equivalent to 250 meter cube per hectare. However, due to water restriction imposed by the Water Resources Unit since September 2022, that is for the dry season, the frequency of water supply for high pressure sprinkler has been reduced to every 20 days, and for drip irrigation, the frequency has been reduced to 24 hours for 3 days per week for the region of Triolet, and 5 hours for 6 days per week for the region of Solitude. Mr. Speaker, sir, regarding part B of the question, I'm informed that out of the 26 center pivots installed on the Northern Plains Irrigation Project, only 13 center pivots are operational. I wish to inform the House that there has been recurrent thefts of various parts of the other 13 pivots, resulting in their non-operation, and for which some 30 complaints have been received. I wish to inform the House that my ministry and the Irrigation Authority have left no stone unturned in addressing the root causes of the problems with the assistance of the Commissioner of Police. Concurrently, the Irrigation Authority is replacing the stolen parts of the center pivots and installing security measures such as fencing, including electric fencing, motion-sensitive alarm systems around the control panels of the center pivots. The services of private security companies are also being contracted out. The option for separate metered water abstraction is being proposed to interested planters, as same is more flexible and user-friendly. In addition, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Irrigation Authority is also taking appropriate measures to replace its fleet of vehicles for patrol and recruiting manual labor to improve irrigation service offered to planters. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, I have two supplementary. Can the Minister inform the House whether there has been any deadline given to the Irrigation Authority by his ministry, at least to have the pivot, when these new pivots will be received or replaced or repairs, and also the delivery of the vehicles?
Unfortunately, I don't have that information. I will need notice of those specific questions, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Supplementary. Is the minister, can I know from the minister whether he is ready, as well as received requests to meet the planters of Triolet and Solitude, who are facing, small planters are facing a lot of difficulties, apart from those mentioned in my parliamentary questions, as a gesture towards these hard-working planters who put a lot of time in their work.
I do regularly meet the planters of the region, especially in the sub-office of the Irrigation Authority, which is situated in Plaine des Papayes. I am aware of the problems faced by the planters. In fact, I am also pleased to inform the House that on next Wednesday, 12th of this month, we are inaugurating a new treatment plant and pump at Solitude. I will invite personally the Honourable Member to attend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next question.
B946.
Mr. Speaker, I'm informed that there are 252,354 beneficiaries in receipt of the basic retirement pension as follows. Pension age, person age 60 to 64, 78,609. Persons age 65 to 89, 169,455. Person age 90 to 99, 4,128. Persons age 100 and above, 162. With regards to Part B of the question, I'm further informed that an amount of 33.2 billion has been disbursed for payment of basic retirement pension in financial year 2022-2023, with a view to upgrading the standard of living of our elderly and vulnerable groups. The government has increased the basic retirement pension by 1,000 as announced in the budget speech 2023-2024. Funds to the tune of 37.6 billion has been provided in the budget estimate 2023-2024 for basic retirement pension as compared to 33.2 billion provided in financial year 2022-2023, representing an increase of 13% in the budget.
May I know from the Honourable Minister how many persons above the age of 60 are currently benefiting from the carers allowance and monthly domiciliary visits by doctors of the ministry?
Well, there are some well-established criteria for persons deriving their carers allowance. a bedridden or severely disabled person is eligible for a carer's allowance when he needs the constant care and attention of another person in the daily life. All beneficiaries of carer's allowance also benefit from monthly domiciliary visits, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to add also that elderly persons above the age of 90 are automatically eligible for monthly domiciliary visit, even if they do not get the carer's allowance. So, as far as I remember, around 16,000 persons aged 60 to 89 are benefiting from the domiciliary visits. With regards to persons aged 90 and above, I don't have the figure.
Next question. Next question.
B949.
Mr. Speaker, I am informed that the medical options available to patients for pain relief in labor in public hospitals are as follows. Betadine injection. Betadine, a strong painkiller of the opioid family of drugs, an injection given in the muscle in the active phase of labor. Takes around 20 minutes to be effective, lasts for 2 to 4 hours. It's given on an as per the patient requirements in labor basis. It's usually given after all parameters are assessed in terms of fetal and maternal well-being. And secondly, epidural anesthesia. On the patient's request, an anesthetic will give an epidural anesthesia in the patient's spine through a very thin catheter after counseling of the patient. The medication used is Marcaine. Takes around 10 minutes to be effective and can be topped up by the midwife through an infusion pump. And third one is pudendal block. That is a local anesthetic can be given in the pudendal nerve in the second stage of labor to pain relief.
Thank you. Can I just ask the Honourable Minister whether the epidural anesthesia is being extended to all hospitals or only to specific hospitals?
Mr. Speaker, so far my information is it's been expanded to all the hospitals. But I have the global figures of around 50 women in labor are receiving anesthetic, epidural anesthesia on a weekly basis. I don't have the information whether this has been available in all, but I believe it's been available in all.
Thank you. It is noted with satisfaction in the public sector, public hospital, that epidural anesthesia is now a mode of pain relief. The only concern that has been brought up is the continuity of care, because sometimes this process can take more than 12 hours to be before baby are delivered, and what the ministry has to reassure the healthcare staff and the patient with regard to same.
Just because I'm sorry, I'm not a gynecologist, it's very difficult to answer this technical question, and I believe I'll try to seek out the reply from a gynecologist, and I will convey to you.
Next question.
B950.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that in order to benefit from support under the different empowerment scheme of the Ministry and the National Empowerment Foundation, a household has to be registered and found eligible under the Social Register of Mauritius and thereafter sign a social contract. With regards to Part with regards to Part A of the question, I'm informed that as at date, there are 5,862 eligible households under the Social Register of Mauritius who are currently benefiting from the various empowerment program schemes provided by the Ministry and the National Empowerment Foundation. As regards part B of the same question, it is expected that an additional 3,000 households would be found eligible following the review of the income threshold from 10,500 to 14,650 as announced in the budget speech 2023-2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, can the Honourable Minister inform the House of the number of children on the SRM who benefited from child allowance in the previous financial year?
Child allowance. Well, it is a dynamic figure, Mr. Speaker. It does change from month to month, but presently we have an average of 5,400 children in Mauritius, including Rodrigue, who benefit from the child allowance scheme for the financial year 2022-2023.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, can the Honourable Minister list out the various empowerment schemes for the SRM households?
Mr. Speaker, there are a list of programs and schemes that are there for the persons who are on the social register of Mauritius following the signing of the social contract with NEF. So maybe I can list some of them. So first of all, payment of the subsistence allowance to the beneficiary, as I mentioned earlier, payment of a child allowance, free examination scheme, school payment scheme, creche allowance scheme. We do provide training facilities to SRM beneficiaries so that they become self-employed and can start their own business, and also providing on a regular basis medical screening facilities. These are some of the programs and schemes that are there for beneficiaries on the social register of Mauritius.
The table has been advised that B958, B975, B981, B983 have been withdrawn. Time over.
Motion. Mr. Speaker, I move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
Seconded. The question that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favour say aye, those against say no. Ayes have it.
Statements by ministers.
Commissioner shall make a statement. At the last sitting of the National Assembly, during my reply to parliamentary question B834, an additional question was put by the Honourable second member for Lacavian and Phoenix regarding the rent due by one Mrs. DR in respect of space occupied at the Vakwa multipurpose municipal complex opposite the vegetable market currently housing the civil status office. The information was requested was not available at my end at that particular time. I am now informed that the Municipal Council of Vakwa Phoenix, I'm informed by the Municipal Council of Vakwa Phoenix that Mrs. DR does not occupy any space in the Vakwa multipurpose municipal complex where there is the civil status office. In fact, Mrs. DR is a tenant of a commercial unit at another building near the municipal complex, that is at the Vakwa market. Moreover, Mrs. DR has settled her arrears amounting to 143,600 rupees in 2 installments on the 22nd and 27th of June 2023 respectively.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that the Road Traffic Amendment Bill number 10 of 2023 be read a first time.
Public Bill, second reading.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai l'honneur de m'exprimer aujourd'hui dans cette auguste assemblée pour apporter mon soutien plein et entier au Central Medical Procurement Authority Bill. À cet égard, permettez-moi de féliciter mon collègue et camarade docteur l'honorable ministre de la Santé et du Bien-être pour avoir apporté au travers de ce projet de loi clarté et exhaustivité dans la réglementation de l'ensemble de la chaîne d'approvisionnement des achats publics de produits médicaux. Monsieur le Président, conformément à la philosophie centrée sur l'humain portée par notre honorable Premier ministre, ce gouvernement a continuellement investi dans la modernisation du secteur de la santé. Nous continuerons à le faire pour le bénéfice des Mauriciens, de tous les Mauriciens. Parmi les différents projets ayant trait au secteur de la santé que nous avons pu annoncer dans les derniers discours du budget, je me permets de citer le nouveau centre de cancérologie, le nouvel hôpital universitaire de Flac, le nouvel hôpital pour les yeux de Moka, la nouvelle unité de transplantation rénale, les 6 nouvelles cliniques médicales, les 5 centres de santé régionaux, les 6 centres de santé communautaires et le nouveau bureau de la santé. En outre, un nouveau centre de cardiologie ultramoderne et un nouvel entrepôt pour les produits pharmaceutiques à Côte d'Or sont en cours de finalisation. Cet entrepôt sera d'ailleurs géré par la nouvelle autorité. Monsieur le Président, alors que nous avons traversé la pire crise de notre histoire, nous savons que les chaînes d'approvisionnement en biens de santé jouent un rôle essentiel pour assurer le bon fonctionnement du système sanitaire et par extension de notre société et de notre économie dans son ensemble. Nous ne devons pas lésiner sur les marges de manœuvre à dégager pour assurer un système de santé résilient et efficient. C'est en ce sens que le budget accordé à la santé a été rehaussé de 2,2 milliards de roupies pour l'exercice financier de 2022-2023, s'établissant donc à 15,2 milliards de roupies et à 15,7 milliards de roupies pour l'année fiscale 2023-2024. Sur ce premier montant, quelques 2,8 milliards de roupies ont été consacrés à l'achat de produits pharmaceutiques, de produits non pharmaceutiques, de nutraceutiques, de vaccins et d'antisérums thérapeutiques, de dispositifs médicaux, d'équipements médicaux, d'appareils médicaux, de matériel médical, de matériel dentaire, de technologies médicales, de fournitures et de réactifs de laboratoire et de consommables hospitaliers, entre autres. Le déploiement de ces importants fonds nécessite des structures systémiques et fonctionnelles clairement définies pour garantir une utilisation optimale des ressources. C'est justement le sens de ce projet de loi. Il s'établit d'ailleurs sur la base d'une étude financée par l'Union européenne sur la gestion des marchés publics et la distribution des médicaments et des fournitures médicales à Maurice. Monsieur le Président, l'une des recommandations de cette étude était de placer sous une gestion unique l'ensemble du cycle de gestion des achats et de l'approvisionnement en produits pharmaceutiques et en fournitures médicales. Et cela, plutôt que d'avoir plusieurs bureaux impliqués en parallèle sans une intégration et une coordination appropriée. Le projet de loi que nous débattons aujourd'hui est effectivement conçu pour assurer l'intégration de l'ensemble de la chaîne d'approvisionnement, c'est-à-dire depuis la planification des achats jusqu'à la gestion de la distribution en passant par la gestion des contrats et l'évaluation des performances des fournisseurs. Cette nouvelle entité proposée, la Central Medical Procurement Authority, sera légalement tenue de finaliser tous les besoins et spécifications des fournitures médicales avant le 31 mars de chaque année financière pour l'achat et l'utilisation en cours de l'année financière suivante. Cela garantira des achats planifiés, adéquats et opportuns et évitera, tant que possible, le recours à des achats directs ou à des achats d'urgence de fournitures médicales à des coûts souvent plus élevés. Je note avec satisfaction que ce projet de loi prévoit également la mise en place d'un stock de sécurité pour atténuer le risque de pénurie de fournitures médicales. Monsieur le Président, selon une étude conduite par l'Asian Development Bank, la chaîne d'approvisionnement représente près de 25% des coûts pharmaceutiques et plus de 40% des coûts des dispositifs médicaux. L'Organisation mondiale de la santé a estimé qu'en réduisant les dépenses inutiles liées à la chaîne d'approvisionnement des médicaments, les pays pourraient économiser jusqu'à 5% de leurs dépenses totales de santé. Par conséquent, l'optimisation des stratégies et des processus de la chaîne d'approvisionnement peut permettre de réaliser des économies substantielles. En tant que ministre des Finances, je ne peux qu'encourager et soutenir ce projet de loi qui permettra d'améliorer encore davantage l'efficience des dépenses publiques. Cela sera notamment possible par le biais d'accords cadres, d'accords de gouvernement à gouvernement, d'achats groupés régionaux ou internationaux, de stocks gérés par les fournisseurs et d'accords de partenariat public-privé. Je me réjouis également que le projet de loi rende juridiquement obligatoire l'utilisation d'un système de gestion électronique des stocks. L'utilisation d'un tel système informatique favorisera la prise de décisions fondées sur des données et réduira les risques de rupture de stock et de péremption des fournitures médicales. Plusieurs études ont en effet montré une nette diminution des ruptures de stock et de péremption grâce à l'utilisation d'un système de gestion des stocks en ligne. Par exemple, en Zambie, une réduction de 90% des ruptures de stock et une réduction de 47% du surstockage ont été observées. Monsieur le Président, sous la direction de notre Premier ministre, l'honorable Pravin Kumar Jugnauth, le développement de l'industrie pharmaceutique locale est une priorité pour ce gouvernement. Nous avons mis en place pléthore de mesures incitatives pour attirer les investisseurs potentiels dans le secteur et les encourager à établir des usines de fabrication à Maurice telles que l'octroi d'un congé fiscal de 8 ans, l'exemption du paiement des droits d'enregistrement, l'exemption de la TVA sur la construction, les usines et les équipements médicaux. L'incitation la plus importante pour un fabricant local de produits pharmaceutiques serait peut-être un marché pour ces produits. Le gouvernement explore les marchés régionaux et internationaux potentiels afin de faciliter l'exportation des produits pharmaceutiques fabriqués localement par le biais d'accords commerciaux appropriés. Il convient de souligner que le projet de loi prévoit que l'autorité conclura un accord de fourniture avec un fabricant local après avoir mené des négociations concurrentielles portant notamment sur les conditions de fourniture, le prix ou le mode de détermination du prix et le respect des normes de qualité requises. Ces mesures incitatives devraient donner l'impulsion nécessaire au développement du secteur biopharmaceutique à Maurice, porteur de croissance et d'emploi. Monsieur le Président, la méthode d'évaluation des systèmes de passation des marchés réalisée conjointement par la Banque africaine de développement et la Banque mondiale en 2022 exige qu'une fonction normative et réglementaire soit associée à une entité publique opérationnelle. Le projet de loi prévoit une telle fonction. Il est ainsi important de noter que conformément à l'article 4 du projet, le Procurement Policy Office de mon ministère sera l'organe normatif et réglementaire de l'autorité centrale des achats médicaux. En tant que tel, le Procurement Policy Office, en consultation avec l'autorité, formulera des politiques relatives à l'approvisionnement en fournitures médicales, y compris des directives, des procédures, des instructions, des notes techniques et des manuels. Il garantira également l'assurance qualité pour veiller à ce que l'autorité s'acquitte de ses fonctions de manière efficace et efficiente. Monsieur le Président, la nouvelle autorité apportera une réponse à un certain nombre de questions qui ont été mises en évidence par le directeur de l'audit. Il s'agit notamment de la planification améliorée des achats conduisant à des achats locaux excessifs à des coûts élevés, la gestion des contrats d'achat, le respect assuré des bonnes procédures de passation de marché, l'utilisation appropriée du système électronique de gestion des stocks, une meilleure assurance qualité pour les produits médicaux et le suivi d'un protocole d'entretien approprié entraînant des pannes fréquentes de l'équipement médical. Monsieur le Président, il convient de noter que le projet de loi prévoit des dispositions précises pour consolider l'implémentation des principes de bonne gouvernance, comme suit. Tout membre nommé au conseil d'administration de l'autorité ne doit pas avoir été ou ne doit pas être activement engagé dans une activité politique. Chaque membre et dirigeant doit faire une déclaration de patrimoine auprès de l'ICAC dans les 30 jours qui suivent la fin de son mandat et au début de son mandat et à la fin de celui-ci. L'auditeur de l'autorité est le directeur de l'audit. Conformément à la Statutory Bodies Act, l'autorité doit présenter un rapport annuel accompagné d'un état des comptes vérifiés pour chaque exercice financier qui doit être déposé devant l'Assemblée, et tout contrevenant sera passible d'une amende n'excédant pas 1 million de roupies et d'une peine d'emprisonnement n'excédant pas 10 ans. Monsieur le Président, trop souvent, nous n'accordons de valeur à notre santé que lorsque nous la perdons. Notre mission en tant que gouvernement responsable et bienveillant est d'assurer à tous les Mauriciens un accès à des soins de santé de qualité. Par la mise en place de cette nouvelle autorité, nous nous rapprocherons de cet objectif. Monsieur le Président, je vous remercie de votre attention.
Mr. Speaker, sir, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to intervene on this very important bill. I will start by saying that public procurement is a crucial pillar of services delivery for governments, as it refers to the purchase by government and state-owned enterprises of goods, services and works. As public procurement accounts for a substantial proportion of the taxpayers' money, any responsible government is expected to carry it out efficiently and with high standards of conduct in order to ensure high quality of service delivery and safeguard the public interest. We should recall that one of the main and innovative features of the procurement reform process in Mauritius was the establishment of the Procurement Policy Office. Established pursuant to Section 4 of the Public Procurement Act 2006, the Public Office has as main purpose to provide a mechanism for conducting oversight and monitoring of the performance and progress of the procurement system in Mauritius, and to guide and promote its continuing development and improvement. Its mission is to promote the development of a modern and efficient public procurement system for Mauritius based on international best practices through close monitoring, regular audits, review, capacity building, and research. Mr. Speaker, sir, I chose to highlight the characteristics and mission of the Procurement Policy Office because 17 years after its establishment, here we are today debating on another bill which has as prime target to curtail any abuse and corruptive intentions during procurement exercises of medical supplies for the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Mr. Speaker, sir, this legislation has, of course, the ultimate goal for better serving the population while also guaranteeing that our procedures are transparent and fair. Hence, the establishment of a central medical procurement authority is a crucial step towards ensuring that the health needs of the country are met with the highest level of efficiency and transparency, since the current fragmented procurement system has resulted in wastage, perceived corruption, and delayed in the delivery of essential medicines and medical supplies to our health facilities. Mr. Speaker, sir, the establishment of the Central Medical Procurement Authority also aims to improve the efficiency and transparency of the procurement process for medical supplies and equipment in the country's public health system. Prior to the establishment of CMPA, medical procurement in Mauritius was managed by various agencies and departments, which often resulted in duplication of efforts, inefficiencies, and inconsistencies in the procurement process. The CMPA will centralize the procurement process, streamline procedures, and ensure that medical equipment and supply are procured at competitive prices and in a timely manner. Let me highlight some of the key benefits of setting up the CMPA. Namely, it will improve efficiency. That is, the CMPA will be responsible for the centralization of the procurement process for all medical supplies and equipment. It will eliminate duplication of efforts and ensure that procurement is done in a timely manner, like I've mentioned earlier. It will also provide for transparency, in as much as the CMPA will ensure that the procurement process is transparent and that all procurement activities are carried out in accordance with the rules and regulations set out by the ministry and the government. Cost saving, this centralized procurement system will allow for bulk purchase of medical supplies, which can result in cost saving for the government. Quality assurance, the CMPA will also be responsible for ensuring that all medical equipment and supplies procured meet the required quality standards and are fit for purpose. Overall, the establishment of the CMPA in Mauritius is a positive step in improving the efficiency and transparency of the procurement process for the medical equipment and supplies in the country's public health system. The Procurement Public Policy Office will work in close collaboration with the authority to formulate, after consultation with the latter, policies relating to procurement of medical supplies. It will also act as a focal point to guide the board with a view to ensuring consistencies in the application of this Act and any regulations made under this Act. Furthermore, it will recommend and facilitate the implementation of measures to improve the functioning of the procurement system, and most importantly, it conduct quality assurance to ensure that the authority is discharging its function effectively and efficiently. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is a fact that safeguards have always been there, whether in terms of legislation or in terms of protocols. But in the end, corruptive actions and tampering of with documents, specifications, are only possible when human beings intervene in the process. One example of such shrewd intervention that comes to my mind, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I'm sure members in this House do remember how one minister under the Labour Party government of 1995 to 2000 was found guilty of soliciting a commission of 10 rupees on each duffel molto ordered by his ministry, that is to provide comfort and warmth to our senior citizens during winter period. 10 rupees, Mr. Speaker, sir, on 105 molto of that order was pocketed roughly some over $1 million back on the back of our citizens. That famous case typifies what I call human intervention, because he had insisted that the ministry request by way of an official letter to have the list of all bidders. He insisted over the permanent secretary of the ministry tried to deter him, as it was contrary to the prescribed procedures. Mr. Speaker, sir, much has been said in this House about the emergency procedures that were adopted by the government during COVID. Let me come to the element of emergency in the procurement exercise. During the outbreak of COVID in 2020, the government had to face a situation which no other government of this country ever encountered. In view of the extreme urgency the country faced, the government had no alternative than to have recourse to emergency procurement as provided for under Section 21 of the Public Procurement Act, and further borne out by Directive 44 from the Procurement Policy Office. The first objective of the emergency procurement process was to save lives, protect our population, shield our only resource, that is our workforce. I refer to a PNQ answered by the Prime Minister on emergency procurement in July 2020. The Prime Minister highlighted that an assessment by the World Health Organization of the risk for Mauritius was that for a population of 1.2 million inhabitants, the risk exposure was 0.461, with mild infection of 87,000 persons, slightly over 1,000 severe infection, and over 22 hospital admissions and 837 deaths. It was this kind of unprecedented catastrophe that was looming on us. Honorable Prime Minister added, I quote, "In the face of such a projected, unprecedented and alarming situation, we could not remain inactive, but we had to be expediently proactive." And that is why other ministries, like the Ministry of Commerce, were roped in to assist and help fight against the pandemic that had put the world to a halt. Mr. Speaker, sir, members on the other side of the House often criticize the way things were done at that time. But we are all aware that the Independent Commission Against Corruption has initiated an inquiry into the issue of procurement of medicine and equipment during COVID-19. And with due respect to our institutions, I would humbly make an appeal to these members to wait for the conclusion of the inquiry before making any comment on the procedure adopted. Mr. Speaker, sir, some may argue that when human life is at stake, procurement rules and lengthy procedures cannot stand in the way as always. Nevertheless, according to me, there are pertinent issues raised pertaining emergency procurement. While doing some research work, I came by some interesting views shared in a booklet compiled by Transparency Mauritius, entitled Best Practices for Emergency Public Procurement. One of the contributors was Mr. Navin Bikari, the director of ICAC, and he says in that booklet, I quote, "All corruption acts in the context of procurement feed into money laundering practices, which in turn strengthen existing corrupt systems and institutions. It is a cycle, and in order to address the problem, we need to adopt a holistic approach. We need to look not only at investigation, but also education and prevention. It's not only a question of strengthening the system, but also people's integrity." Unquote. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry of Health and Quality of Life is often the object of criticism when it comes to procurement, stockage, and cost of medicines. But let us not forget, this has not been the case. This has not been the case now. It has always been the case in the past, under any government. Allow me some time to go through some examples as outlined by the Audit Bureau in its yearly report. For example, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the report of year 2007-2008, that is when the Labour Party again was at the helms of the country, I quote, "Access to stores, adequate storage space, paper stocking were unsatisfactory features. As regard to that features, we do welcome the inclusion of electronic inventory management system for the management of procurement and supply chains to be used by the authority in respect of medical supplies in the present bill. Let me now come to the audit report for the year 2009. Again, under the Labour Party regime, concerning procurement of pharmaceutical products, namely 2 batches of cyclophosphamide 50 mg tablets. Mr. Speaker, sir, a first consignment of 18,000 tablets were purchased at a price of ₹1.26 per unit. Then another batch of 19,000 tablets were purchased from a different source. For the second consignment, the unit price rose to 83.95 rupees. That is costing more than 55 times compared to the first order. Even worse, for these tablets I've mentioned, the report says that since the expiry dates were October and November 2010, it was expected that more than 30,000 tablets costing more than 1.2 billion would have expired before use. Quel gaspillage. And you know what was the reply of the ministry at that time when queried by the audit office? They said that the tablets had been inadvertently repeated in 2 tenders documents and escaped the different levels of control. Why is it that every time members of the Labour Party, when intervening on a bill, suddenly fail to recall how the country was being run by their colleague of their party, and they dare to criticize us? The same year, Mr. Speaker, sir, 2009, 2 other items, namely cyclophosphamide, 500 milligram injection, and ifosfamide, 1 gram injection, were also ordered, and it was found that the actual cost were about 3 million and 2 million respectively more than the estimated cost on the previous purchases. Moreover, the same report states that 10,000 beclometaphone inhaler had been procured in November 2009 for 790,000 rupees, thus costing 79 rupees per unit. Okay? Then another quotation was launched for several items, including the said inhaler. The contract for 4,000 inhalers were awarded to a bidder, and the unit price paid was 322 rupees in November 2009, same month. So from 79 rupees to 322 rupees for the same item in the same month. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, they had been defying the principle of economics at that time. Même moule nous pira via fait avec ça. Mr. Speaker, sir, yet another blatant example of questionable urgency for procurement was outlined in the audit report year 2012. This time it concerned the purchase of 16 vehicles to be used as ambulances. Rappel l'épisode de l'ambulance. In February 2012, decision was taken by the Ministry of Health to replace 16 old ambulances at the regional hospital using the provision of emergency procurement. The procurement of these vehicles were done in 2 phases. The first phase for the purchase of the vehicle without passenger seats, then their conversion work afterwards. Although the first phase was completed in November 2012, the second phase was still on as at July 2013. That is some 19 months after the decision was taken at the ministry's level using the emergency provision for the procurement of these ambulances. In fact, the conversion works took longer than expected while the vehicle had already been issued to the hospital. You know what? One of them even refused access on the tarmac of Plaisance Airport as the vehicle was not recognized as an ambulance. What a shame. Worse, Mr. Speaker, sir. Worse, Mr. Speaker, sir. Almost 8 months after reception of the vehicles by the Ministry of Health, only 4 out of 16 were fully converted into ambulances. Yes, 4 out of 16. Hence, Mr. Speaker said the Director of Audit concluded that the way the procurement had been conducted did not reflect the reason originally put forward, namely on a priority basis and because of the acute shortages of the ambulances in the hospitals. Sana plipia ki paken bisa sana. Mr. Speaker, sir, another example of the largest toléré sous le régime post-travail PMSD is the upgrading of the Dr. G2 Hospital. The National Audit Report 2007-2008 states that the estimated cost of the project originally to be financed jointly by the government of Mauritius and a loan from the African Development Bank was to the tune of 654 million rupees. The loan agreement with ADB was signed in 2002. However, the loan was cancelled in 2007. And as of September 2008, the Ministry of Finance had already given its approval for the funding of the project. The revised cost for the upgrading of G2 Hospital, including building and equipment, were estimated at 1.8 billion rupees, Mr. Speaker, sir, instead of 654 million rupees. There was no war in Ukraine or whatsoever then. These examples are blatant facts. These examples are blatant facts that ceux qui prêchent la bonne gouvernance et l'anticorruption devraient d'abord faire un examen de conscience. This kind of governance we should expect from the supposed future alliance, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, whenever we talk of procurement, we should not forget the Betamax saga. It is important to remind the population how such a maneuver was made possible. At that time, they did not hesitate to manipulate the procurement procedures. Actually, the public procurement regulation was amended to do away in order, yes, the procurement procedure was amended in 2009. In 2009, to do away with tender exercise, which was considered as a major hindrance for the allocation of a big and juicy contract to one of theirs. Let me put it bluntly, Mr. Speaker, sir. This allowed the deal du siècle, with STC binded to respect terms of an outrageous contract. And as you all know, the population is still paying a hefty price for that deal. In an article published on the 7th of July 2011 in l'Express newspaper, Professor Swale Kassenali, an ex-MMM minister, I think he's still a member of the MMM, mentioned that the terms of the contract between STC and Betamax, I quote, the contract between STC and Betamax for the transportation of petroleum products contains clauses inimical to the interests of the country. For example, clause 6.2 of the COE deals with the hire of freight capacity, whereby during each contract year, STC undertakes to hire and pay 100% of the freight capacity. Clause 6.58 refers to the aggregate freight amount of 17.6 million USD per contract year. This rate is subject to escalation clause over 15 years period. How, I'm still quoting, how could STC agree to guarantee an annual payment of 17.6 million USD for a tanker costing 58 million USD according to a report made by BDO DCADM. He goes further to say, I'm still quoting, such an arrangement is tantamount to a project financing of tanker by sea, unquote. Furthermore, Professor Casinali adds that, I quote, the most scrupulous aspect of this arrangement appears when daily freight charges of the Betamax tanker and LR1 type is calculated to be 48,000 US dollar. So daily charges is calculated to be 48. This is grossly indecent when the ongoing rate, so the ongoing rate prevailing at that time on the international market was only 16,500 US dollar, Mr. Speaker, sir. Practically 3 times the amount. For reference, I will not go further on what was quoted again. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think every member in this House knows quite well about the practices at the time when the parties of the members from the other side of the House were at the helm of the country. Today, I ask the population through you, Mr. Speaker, sir, is this the kind of governance they should expect from the supposed future alliance if they are called to govern the country again, although I don't believe it will happen? Mr. Speaker, sir, we as a responsible government, we are coming up with a legislation to guarantee every single taxpayer's rupees is well accounted for and spent wisely. We are waging a war against waste to have an optimum use of our resources and means. I can only congratulate my colleague, the Honorable Kailash Jagatpal, for this bill, which has the intention of curbing all discrepancies and loopholes which may exist in the current system. This government not only means business, but also wants to go in history for introducing an entity which will be the beacon of transparency and efficiency that will help revitalize our public health services and meet the demand of a modern country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I'll suspend the sitting for 30 minutes.